Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our this edition of Hit It and Quit It, Why Everyone Needs a Coach. We're excited to bring this to you today because we believe everyone needs a coach. So we will kick it off. Jim, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have a lot of fire in the belly for this particular topic, mainly because of the success that I and the team have had with coaching. And specifically, people come out of it saying they really have learned skills. They really are a better professional and often a better, spouse, parent, whatever, because of the skills they've learned and what they've uncovered. So a lot of energy on my part about this topic. I want to turn it over to Liz because she runs our 360 process, and part of it that's so important is the feedback, which we have a 360 we've designed. And so, Liz, if you just tell them briefly, like what that 360 is.
Sure. Well, a little bit about FCG and you see our coaches here. And part of our process when someone reaches out for coaching, whether it is executive level or high potential, whatever it may be for a coach, we are big believers in two things. One is data and the other is fit. So as Jim mentioned, we have a 360 process that was made for the industry, by the industry and the investment industry, because that's the only place we work and the only area we work is in that financial services investment world industry. And our 360 is designed to address and look at competencies. So how often a particular person does a skill, and that really informs our coaching. Although you can do coaching without that 360, this is a data-driven industry, and so data really helps us to narrow down what those key topics are that an individual should leverage and an individual may need to develop further. And the other piece is fit. Fit is really important to us here at Focus Consulting, and you see on your screen that there's a variety of us who do coaching here because you got to get the fit right. So part of our process when someone calls us for coaching is to be able to offer 2 or 3 or 4 of us for that executive to interview and talk about what they want to get out of coaching, how we as individuals approach coaching, and see what that fit is, and let that executive or that individual choose who they feel comfortable in talking to as a coaching relationship.
Great. So what we're going to do with you today is each share some of the reasons why everybody who's with you today from FCG is excited about this offering, and why it's only slightly tongue-in-cheek that we say everybody needs a coach. It's hugely helpful. I would say that in my experience, so I'll start, then I'll pass the baton. My experience, only occasionally does someone get a marginal benefit. I don't know anyone who's not found some benefit, but only occasionally they get marginal. The humorous story I'll share is I walked into a senior officer at one of our clients, and I had coached a number of people at the organization. And he said, "I'm really eager to meet you, Jim." And I sort of laughed. I thought, well, what's this all about? And he said, "Because you are a miracle worker." I laughed. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he cited 2 people that he works with who had changed completely. I mean, really like night to day change in their behavior. And it was largely because each of them had blind spots. And so they were uncovered by the 360. And I'll also add, each of them had a sincere interest in changing. That's key. And in fact, FCG will sometimes say to a prospective client, this is not going to work because the person involved doesn't want to have coaching and they have no interest in it. So let's not waste our time, right? But seriously, the experiences I've had are such that I really am a big fan of it. Let me turn it over to Robert. And Robert, you can tell us about a success that you've had with coaching.
Thanks, Jim. So I had a fellow recently who was acting out and it was bad for the firm and bad for him. And the issue with him is
Robert, just make sure everybody knows what acting out means.
Yeah, sorry. Acting out means he was aggressive, and he was sort of a yeller, and it was bad for morale, bad for the firm, and really bad for him too, because they were on the fence as to whether they wanted him to continue. And what I worked with him on was really being able to identify his emotions. And it turned out it was a combination of fear and anger. So what we worked on was starting to notice how deeply he felt at any particular time. And then he started to respond mindfully to the situation instead of reacting. We usually react to anger very quickly, and that can lead to even depression on the part of the person who's angry. Anger has intelligence, of course. And if we get curious about how and why we're triggered, then there's something actually we can do about it. So in the end, what happened was this fella really calmed down, really started to work well with his team, and he was a success.
Great, and we've seen that from Robert many times. He's a master on our team at mindfulness. He's our teacher on that particular topic. Keith, success story from your coaching experience?
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I like my colleagues, enjoy coaching very much. I will say, often coaching has been framed as a punitive thing. We've got somebody broken, go fix them. And that's not it at all. Liz mentioned fit. Fit matters because fit creates trust. And when you feel a sense of camaraderie with somebody, they're more open to development. We really use coaching for development. And often it's taking somebody from, the old Jim Collins, good to great. So specific to one individual, one executive that I was coaching, who the organization saw them as high potential, but they needed some executive presence. So they were very good at executing, very good at tactical execution. But really, when it came down to working at a board level, working at the C-suite level, they needed to slow down. They needed to increase their ability to articulate. They needed to learn what we call headline speaking. In other words, what are the big ideas? So we spent our time doing that. And over the course of about 6 months, the change was, one, fun for the individual because they saw the progress and they got the feedback as they went. They might walk out of a meeting and somebody would come to them in their sphere of influence and go, that was really, really good. You really just focused on the things that mattered as opposed to what this individual used to do, which was focus on everything. So it's not necessarily a punitive thing. Coaching is a developmental thing. And that's why we say everybody needs a coach, because we all need development, including us, by the way. And I use our coaches to coach me. So we all use coaching, and there are countless success stories of executives who will tell you, I'm a better executive because I had a coach.
True enough. Liz, coaching experience?
Yeah, so I'm with Keith in that, coaching can be not just about fixing a problem, but actually being proactive. And so one of the key clients for me was an organization that really believed in preparing their high potentials for the next level. And so I coached a gentleman who was going from being an individual contributor to a manager. And good for this organization for recognizing that they were promoting someone who had great individual and technical skills, but didn't necessarily have those skills that are good for good leaders and managers of people, those emotional intelligence. So they were proactive and said, we're going to give you a coach to help you get those skills. And so for me, coaching is about 4 things. One is that feedback. So to be able for someone to get feedback that they may not have from others about blind spots, things like that, to give them a safe space to problem solve. And so this particular person was able to come to me as a coach and share things that they may not have wanted to share because they just didn't have skill in order to do that. And it's applied learning. So we've been very blessed at Focus with to having a toolkit of different skills that we can help our coachees with to help them be better leaders. So I was able to help him to be able to get those skills that are really important as managers, influencing others, mentoring, decision rights, right? Being curious and helping to coach somebody else along. So that was a big success for me, and not just as an individual, but as an organization, seeing that an organization is proactive enough to provide that for their folks.
Great. And Brian, let's hear from you on experience you've had with coaching individuals.
Yeah, so much like Liz, I've done a fair amount of work coaching, developing leaders. And it's a great passion because it's a great balance and it's a great opportunity to help those who are growing into the role of being a leader. And usually we cross a lot of different territories. So as Liz referenced, we have the 360 data. So we are able to use that to help them to develop the skills that they need to develop, identify the blind spots and address those. But oftentimes they have questions just about what it means to be a leader. So we have really good conversations around that. And then depending upon the organization, it oftentimes moves over to the conversation of strategy. So it's not only them as managers of individuals, it's also them driving strategy in a business. And we've had really good conversations around how all of this fits together. And as the dad of 3 young boys, this is where the fit comes in. We've talked about a lot. It often goes into family and how family dynamic moves and how do you work that into the work-life balance. And it becomes a very intimate relationship because we have a lot of different conversations about really different topics that influence being an individual, being a manager and a leader. So those are the really rewarding conversations and relationships that we get to develop with our clients. And it's fun to see them progress and to work on the things they need to work on and to grow into the leaders they know they can become.
So what are the bits of resistance we get? Thank you, Brian. On coaching is people who are very successful, and there's no question about that. And they wonder why they might need a coach when they're so successful. So I've been working with an organization now, and I've been fortunate to work with their whole senior team. And this is a really good senior team with really good individuals. So they all would have a case to be made for, I don't really need coaching. Everything's going great, it's very successful. But what I've found in coaching them, and this is the benefit of our set of coaches, because they all have so much industry experience, is I can begin to probe into what would be an additional learning that they hadn't even thought of. For example, one of the people I was working with really was curious about creativity, and he'd never done much research into it, but he knew that his team and his organization was being asked for more creative solutions. So that's something I've done in my prior life, if you will, is read a lot and actually teach creativity. So we spent many sessions talking about how he could increase his creativity, which was something that wasn't even on the radar screen before we started. So it's not the case that somebody who's doing well as a professional doesn't need coaching, because there may be something they don't even know about that could be hugely helpful. So open it up to our team, maybe lead with Keith, but open up to our team where you've had examples of just bringing your wisdom to someone in a way that is not typical of coaching, where they need a skill and you help them get the skill. Keith, have you had situations like that?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Specific to narrow versus broad, one of the advantages that I think coaches can bring is they do have broad experience across the industry, whereas an individual executive or leader may only see their firm. They may have some industry relationships, but they don't look at the leadership across a broad spectrum. So the beauty of this team in particular is we have expertise in a variety of fields. And I have often asked Robert to come in and spend some time with one of my coachees on mindfulness. Or I might ask Jamie, who's an expert in the Enneagram, to spend some time with somebody on personality and how do I interpret my personality. I'm still the coach, but we have the ability to bring in others with expertise. Brian, for example, has an expertise in firm strategy. So I'll often bring Brian in to talk to a leader about strategic thinking and what they're thinking in terms of strategy. So the beauty of having partners like this group of coaches you see in front of you is we do have a lot of versatility and a very broad perspective that often you won't get from someone who is just doing coaching.
Yeah. Other team members want to jump in with an example of working on a topic that wasn't even there on the radar? If not, I'll jump in with just what Keith said, where Jamie, an expert coach and our team has asked me to come in and help her analyze the situation, which may be, like we said earlier, the person being coached, who happens to be the CEO, doesn't really want to change. And so she asked me to come in, provide a little more gravitas, because now two of us are hearing it and responding that if you don't want to change, fine, bless you, but there's no point in us pretending like we're coaching you and helping you to be different, because you've got your way of doing it and you want to keep doing it that way. So I'll join her and we'll have the conversation and see if this person really wants to do anything different. Other comments from the team members here, just in general, on coaching that you want to share?
Jim, I want to reemphasize that point, because I think it's important for people that want coaching. Terrific. You have to want to do the work. And I have fired a couple of coachees in my coaching time that really said they wanted it, but it was window dressing. I just want to show to the organization that I have a coach, because they really didn't want to do the work. And if you really want anything to change, you actually have to do the work. We provide the tools and we provide the opportunity and the wisdom and bring other things to the table. But it really starts with the individual coachee who says, I really want to get better at some aspect of leadership. And if that desire's there, coaching absolutely is, I think, the shortest distance between those 2 points.
I would add that, development is a key intrinsic motivator for retaining and attracting your top talent. And I'll give an example of a firm that we work with that I think does that very well in addressing the development through coaching. And they offer their team, and this is just a team within an organization, 2 coaching sessions a month. And that's it, and anyone on the team can take advantage of that. So it's just open time with the FCG coaches, and anyone who wants some support or has a problem or just wants to get more insight into X can just reach out to the FCG team and have an hour of coaching. And this team has reported to have increased morale, increased productivity, increased efficiency. People are happier because they offer this to everyone as an option. And so I think that's just one way of retaining and attracting top talent, when you are keeping development at the forefront and being creative in how you offer that to your people. And it's not because they're an executive, and it's not because they're being promoted. It's just because they see the value in having people available to be that open ear who has expertise in the industry, that broad range of experience to offer.
That's a great lead into a brief comment, which is, I have one of those calls in 10 minutes with that firm. And someone, I don't know that I've met this person, but I don't know this person wants to explore something. So like you said, I'm sure it'll be an interesting conversation, and we'll explore something that's on their mind. With that, we are at the 20-minute mark. So please join us October 20th, when we will recap what we have learned and insights gained from the leadership forum, which we're conducting right now. Leading with Intention should be a wonderfully informative session. You'll get a lot of insights from what other industry leaders are talking about. I want to thank all of our team members for joining me here today. Wish you all a good weekend and look forward to seeing you on October 20th. Bye for now.